my presence.
Phoveus is an interesting character because one look at his ability, you can see the intention of the developer, and they intended for him to counter Dash Hero, or Dash in general. But if you look at his play rate, he is currently one of the least picked hero in the entire game. The community have forgotten him, really. Why does nobody play him? Is it because of his ability? Is it because the player base don't know how to play him? Or is it that the meta is not in his favor right now? So I want to talk on why he is not very effective right now, and let's begin with his passive, Demonic Intuition. When Phoveus is nearby an enemy that is using dash, blink, or get knocked back, he will reduce all of his ability cooldown by 1 second. As I mentioned before, a passive should help define a hero. It should help define the character. And with Phoveus, this passive really shape him into someone who counter dash or blink in general. This passive is pretty great considering it gives him free stat in the form of cooldown reduction, and it's also synergized with his ability pretty well. For his passive, it is pretty good. However, I still have issue with it, and the main issue being that it's rely too much on other people. You either need the enemy to dash themselves or need your ally to knock them back or pull them forward. So really, the only ability he have to trigger his passive is his second ability. And for most people, they also take flame shot. And so it's not really great when you rely on other to activate your passive or ultimate. So let's start with his first ability. Phoveus' first ability, Malefic Terror, is him smashing the ground, dealing damage to the enemy unit that get hit. If Phoveus hit a unit hero, he will receive shield, and if he hit an enemy hero or jungle creep, the ability will spread its damage to those around them. The synergy between his first ability and his passive is that his first ability have 3 stack and each stack have his individual cooldown. So Phoveus don't have to worry about using his ability and put it on cooldown before triggering his passive. Every time he triggers passive, it will go to his stack, so that is a good synergy. Okay, now let's move on to his second ability, Astaroth's Eye. Phoveus summon Astaroth's Eye in a target location and dealing damage to the enemy. After 1 second, he will pull the enemy to the center. This ability main function is used to trigger his passive and his ultimate. It's not meant to be a damage dealer, consider the base damage is really low and the scaling is really bad. This ability is pretty good, consider you can also use it to check the bushes for the enemy. You can also use it to finish off any low health enemy as well if you combine your second ability damage with lightning truncheon damage. Now let's talk about the thing that makes Phoveus so iconic, and that would be his ultimate, Demonic Force. This is how his ultimate works. When the enemy dash, blink, flick, or they get knocked back while nearby Phoveus, Phoveus will mark them. When they are marked, he can cast his ultimate, blinking on top of them, dealing damage, and also gaining shield. It lasts for 12 seconds, and Phoveus can spam this ability as long as the requirements are met. After Phoveus casts his ultimate, it lasts for 12 seconds, and Phoveus can repeatedly use it again and again as long as the requirements are met. This ability is pretty great consider you can use it as long as you meet the requirement. So as long as the enemy dash, or better yet, your allies or you knock them back, you can cast it for 12 seconds fully. And to top it all off, while he is using his ultimate, he is immune to CC except for suppression. Again, one look at his ultimate and you can see the intention the developer have for him. They want him to counter Dash Hero. So why is he not very popular right now? There is no one answer for this question because there are multiple factors that involve. And so here are some of the things that contribute to his lack of popularity. First and most obvious one is the meta. He is a hero that counter dash, and if we look at the most picked hero currently, the top 5, most of them don't have dash. We have Franco, we have Nana, we have Layla, we have Hanabi and Maya. All of them don't have any dashes. So if you pick Phoveus into them, the most popular character currently, he's not going to do well. The second reason I think why he's not very popular because his play style is too simple and it can be boring for player who play him, and for player who play against him they can counter him pretty well because his gameplay is really simple. You see the enemy dash, you jump to them, and then you keep spamming your ultimate until it's either run out or the enemy is dead, and that's it. So the enemy know how to play against him, and for the player who play him it can be very boring. And the last issue I have with him is with his ultimate. For his ultimate, on paper it is great, but in practice it doesn't work as well as we want it to. Because think about it, what kind of ultimate that made to counter dashes get countered by more dashes? And that doesn't make any sense because his ultimate's supposed to counter dashes, but you can dash out of it. Like it's crazy. If a hero like Wan, Ling, Hayabusa even can outrun his ultimate, and that shouldn't be able to happen. Now I personally think he doesn't need fixing, but I'm still going to give you my idea on how I would change him. So his passive is already pretty good, but I don't think it's enough. And so what I want to do is add something to make it more efficient. And that would be when the enemy using dash, flick, or they get knocked back while nearby Phoveus, he will now reduce cooldown of everything by 0.5 seconds. That include his spell, the heal, and item cooldown as well. And the reason I gave him this because most players use Flame Shot to trigger his ultimate. By giving cooldown reduction to his spell, he now can trigger his ultimate more easily. And it's also because that most players also build Lightning Truncheon, and Lightning Truncheon have a 6-second cooldown before it recharge again. So by giving it a cooldown reduction, it can also help Phoveus deal more damage as well. Now, what I give him is an extension to his passive, meaning it go on top of the 1-second cooldown reduction for his ability. So, for his first ability, this is what I have in mind. Instead of him smashing the ground, now it is a skill shot. It will deal damage to the enemy in the path, and if it hit a hero, it will now knock them back. For his second ability, I will not do anything to it, but adding a slow effect to it, making it harder for the enemy to escape. Now, for his ultimate, the problem, as I stated, is that it is too simple. The ultimate itself doesn't require much thinking, and therefore the player doesn't put much thought into it. So, the way I would change it is, I would make it a little bit more complex. I want the player to put their thought before using it. I don't want them to just spam his ultimate. When a team fight starts, no matter where Phoveus position himself, he will always engage the team fight the same way, and that is him blinking on top of the dashing hero. So to add a bit more complexity to it and make people think before they spam the ultimate, I want him to dash to the enemy instead of blinking. When he dash, if there are enemy that in front of him and in his path, he will deal damage to them and knocking them back, trigger his ultimate on them. And the reason I give him this because now he have the ability to knock the enemy who does not have dashes more easily, and it reward the player for positioning themselves well. And it's also making it harder on the enemy team because before the enemy can just dash willy-nilly to anywhere as long as their teammate are not close around them, the teammate will not receive damage. Now if they don't be careful with their position and they dash around the map carelessly, Phoveus will knock their allies and punish their allies for their behavior. One final thing I want to say is this: if they want Phoveus to come back, all they need to do is buff his shield. They don't even need to buff his damage, and he will come back stronger than ever. So yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to check the other one out as well.
Launch attack! An ally has been slain.